Welcome back to Villa Famiglia, everybody. We are week 56 on this project. We have drywall literally underfoot, and we are just waiting literally today to pass insulation inspection. Nonetheless, our fearless drywall contractor, Proper Ceilings and Walls, love those guys, have already gone through and got all the resilient channel installed on all of the ceilings. Now, you might ask, why, Eric, are you putting resilient channel up on the ceiling at the top of the house when there's no floor above? Like, there's no need for sound damping. Well, here's the reason, folks, right? If you put resilient channel on your ceilings, there we go. See how it bends like that, right? What that does is it allows the drywall to sit flatter on the ceiling. The other thing it does is, especially on like the main floor and the lower floor where you have beam and joist hangers, it forces the drywall to hang about 3/8 below the floor joist. That makes sure that any of those joist hangers that would otherwise create a hump in your ceiling are just not even a thing. You don't have to worry about carving out the back of your drywall, nothing. Put up resilient channel, you are going to save yourself a ton of problems, a ton of headaches. You're going to have a better finished product, and it's just better. Res bar for the win. Okay, so another important detail that we always want to make sure we're dealing with is we want to make sure that we have a nail coming through the wall and the wire wrapped around it to ensure that any of these sorts of devices actually get pulled through, because a lot of times the drywallers, if there's not a nail through, will just kind of cover over it and then you lose your wires. Now, the other thing that I want to point out here, Kyle, is we've got our light switch, and I think this is a keypad for an alarm here. But over here, we have the thermostat. And I'll remind the folks at home, right? You do not ever want to have your thermostat sitting above a light switch. Okay, fine. Fry me in the comments. I'll live with it. Specifically, any sort of dimmer switch, or if you're using a control 4 dimmer or anything like that, these devices can generate a bunch of heat. And if they're generating a bunch of heat, they're going to tell the thermostat, if it were up here, the wrong temperature, because it's going to read the room as hotter than it actually is. So in the wintertime, you might not get enough heat into the room, or in the summertime, you might get too much cooling because the thermostat isn't actually picking up the correct heat. So we want to make sure that our thermostats are away from any sort of heat source. That is really, really, really important. Okay, so let's talk about pot lights. Now, I have had other videos blow up on YouTube and whatever else because people think, oh, you should just get the right tool, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, guess what? You're a dumbass. No, nobody should have to deal with a pot light trim that only gives you 1/8 of an inch of coverage. There you go, 1/2 inch. Ain't that freaking difficult, people, all right? That is a pot light that people can work with. It's other nonsense where you only have 1/8 of an inch or 3/16. Like, get the hell out of here. Like, this is a pot light that would make sense. Now, Kyle saw these hanging down and he's like, hey, boss, what is this all about? All right, so that guy just connects like that. It's pretty simple. Now, the neat thing with this pot light, Kyle, is, and this is most of the pot lights that are available these days, but I really like this particular style of pot light because like if you kind of look across there, the light itself is kind of sort of recessed, so it looks like a traditional halogen pot light, but obviously it's not, it's LED. And the really neat thing about this is, maybe have a look at the color of the light on the insulation there. I can change the color of the light from the actual transformer here, right? This is usually the color that we set them to, which I think is around 3000. And I think that's 2700. I like this one myself. Let me know what you think in the comments yourself. But I like this one. That's a nice color. Works for me. Works for most of our clients. I personally think like this one is just like, this is the kind of light you might see in like a surgical theater or something like that. It's just too white. Like, it's almost blue. It's so white. So this, nice color to it. Very, very beautiful. Nice and bright. And again, folks, look at that, right? Now, that is something that you can work with. Kyle just asked, can you change the color temperature from your phone? No, not with these lights. You have, like, so these lights are fairly easy to take down, Kyle. So basically all you do is those guys go up like this, and then they go into the mud ring up there, and then these guys fold down and push down against the drywall, which keeps the light against the ceiling. If you want to change the color though, you've got to pull the pot light out of the ceiling, pull the transformer down, or you might be able to reach your hand in there and do it from up above, but easier to pull it down. And then there's just a switch on the transformer that you would set the light. But most of the time, most clients just have us set it to a particular light color, and then that's just what we do for the entire house. Let's talk blower door results. We got this home down to 1.04 air changes under 50 pascals of air pressure. You can see that we've got the blower door set up, or was set up, where this door is here now. And so one of the things that we discovered once we actually got that thing sucking is that there were actually a bunch of air leaks through the exterior doors. And so it turns out that these doors have some minor adjustment ability to that. So we'll see what happens with that once that is all dealt with and dialed in. But nonetheless, we are extremely airtight here. Just to put things in perspective, I think 0.7 is what they look for net zero, and we're at 1.04. So what are you gonna do? I mean, that's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn airtight. So why do we do a blower door test? Well, the reason we do it is to make sure that the home is actually airtight and to find any sort of leaks that are happening. Now, if you look at any of my other content that I post up on The Ground Truth, I'm not convinced that the way that we are forced to build homes today is actually the best way in the long term to build homes. But nonetheless, that is the current building code. And if Sprucehill is involved in the project, we are going to exceed building code at all times. We want to be doing better than the minimum, not just the minimum. And the building code, folks, if somebody says, well, it's to code, well, that doesn't mean shit, because that means they have built to the bare minimum standard, okay? Building to code is nothing to be proud of. The reason, again, why we're doing these blower door tests is it gives us a chance to go around. And so when I was here with the testing company, we used a smoker to see and identify how much air was actually pouring through between this opening door and the fixed door that's here. Now, of course, this isn't like permanently fixed. This door also opens. This is a folding door that opens the whole way. But nonetheless, we had a bunch of air coming through here. We had a bunch of air coming through the door in the basement suite and also through the primary bedroom door as well. So that's gonna get adjusted, and that will help to get that dialed in. The other thing that we also found is that there was some air leakage coming in from around the fireplace. So the guys, I think, have figured out where that hole was, and that is getting plugged. Not today, because it is miserable AF outside, and what we need to do to fix it needs dry weather. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about today, Kyle, is the detailing that we did here to achieve that back-to-back penetration. Again, reminder, back-to-back penetration, we're talking about any sort of hole in the drywall that is back-to-back, right? Same wall, 2 holes. So what we had to do here is we had to build basically a drywall box around here. Again, this is for fire separation, right? So now we have got this drywall back here. We've got our shower valve here. So we were able to actually make this work and satisfy the city inspectors. I mean, a little bit of effort, not a ton, but nonetheless, this is all dialed in here, looking fantastic and fireproof, safety first. Okay, so this is the other side of the bathroom, right? So the bathroom that I was just at, on the other side of this wall, this is this wall here. So same drywall details here. We've got our fire separation between the basement suite and the primary dwelling unit. Now, if you want to work with a builder that cares as much about your safety and the quality of work that they do, you should contact us, phone us, find us on the web, reach out. We'd love to be your partners in success. In the meantime, like the video, subscribe or follow. We're trying to get to 1,000 this year. I really appreciate the support. Thank you so much for watching. Catch you on the next one. Stay awesome.